Welcome to What's a Mom podcast. You are listening to Doulas Petra
and Jacqueline.
Motherhood can be isolating and hard.
We are two doulas who want to provide a safe place to talk about all things mom,
from pregnancy
to birth
to postpartum
to parenting.
Join us as we have real conversations about real life.
Hi guys, welcome to our podcast. Nice to have you.
Thanks for joining us today.
Yay.
We are going to be talking about what to expect during your first birth doula visit, and make sure you stay tuned for our next episode, which will be about what to expect during your first postpartum birth or postpartum doula visit.
Yes. I feel like going into after you do the schooling for being a doula, it's really important to, understand exactly what we do provide and stuff. So we wrote down a couple points. And honestly, I feel like they're super important. And so this one, so I just had my first client back in February. And I was also going to share a little bit about what I did, after that. But anyways, we're going to talk about it. So we're going to talk about, I think the first important thing is, what expectations does that mom to be have for us as, coming to work for them as their doula. I feel like that's really important because I actually heard a story about somebody who didn't really explain what that was. And then the mom was let down because she felt like she wasn't getting the kind of care that she thought she was going to get. And so I thought this was a really good point. I think one of the parts was how often they can communicate with them and stuff. And I think it's really important to talk about that before so that no one's let down, right? And it's not us and it's not them and no one's getting blamed and stuff like that. So expectations, what would that be to you, Petra?
I was just going to say, just to also be clear, these are kind of things that we would go over in our first visit, but not every doula will necessarily be the exact same. So this could at least give you some ideas of what you need to ask if they don't bring it up as well.
Absolutely. And so you have all your bases covered for sure.
Yeah.
So Petra, what would your expectations be? Hiring a doula, because you have hired a doula before you were a doula.
Mm-hmm.
What were you looking for?
I guess when I went and met with doulas to try to figure out who was going to be a good fit for us, I was looking at what kind of support they'd offer.
Yep.
And how many hours they're willing to give me for the price range that we were talking about. Knowing if I had to pay in full or if I was able to do it in payments.
Yep.
Because that's something that a lot of people actually will need the payment plans. And other people are like, no, I just want to pay in full, have it done,
Yep. You'll have both.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I wanted to know, at what point in my pregnancy am I able to call on them and say, hey, I need you.
Yep.
So that as well. And then how often I could talk to them. So was it agreed upon that I can just text any questions? Is there only certain times that I can call, or can I call anytime?
Yes. Meaning if it's not an emergency, don't text me at 10 o'clock because I might be sleeping. That sort of thing. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important to establish those, because if you don't, then there can be miscommunication, or you just assume, and then it can just not be a good experience. And I think that, yeah, it's so important. And that's why it's like, you know, the next point is we go over with you what we provide. And not all doulas will cost the same. Some that are in training, some in training will do it for very inexpensive. Some will do it middle, you know, some will do it high. Like it really depends.
And it
And
depends on where you
so
live as well.
absolutely. And so, and it depends on like how much, you know, hours you're planning on it. Like for me, for my first client that I took in February, I provided 2 to 3 hours of prenatal visits. I did 2 of them. My first one was just kind of getting to know the mom, doing some postpartum prep, you know, that sort of stuff. We made protein balls and patsicles because that was just, it's a cool thing. It's like, I don't want to just like come to your house and then not know really anything about you. Like, we're going to know each other pretty intimately, like through like your birth process and stuff. So I actually learned that from a doula. And it was really awesome. And so I kind of just set it out and I'm like, okay, you have 2 visits that are prenatal visits. Your first is like getting, you know, we're going to do like some postpartum prep. The second one, we're going to do some pain measures. We're going to maybe show you how the rebozo works or whatever. We might talk about, you know, how we can support you while you're in labor and that sort of stuff. So like they're like 2 to 3 hour appointments each. So we're already at 6 hours. So I explain that. And then you got to think about the birth. And this is something you have to really establish what you're willing to go and do. Because like my first birth, I had a really young kid and like it was hard. I'm like, you know, it depends on how the birth goes, but if it's like stalling and stuff, I might have to leave. I might have to pull back. I might have to take some time, go home, spend some time with the family, and then come back. But her birth, like I was there from like around 1 a.m. to like 10 a.m. So that's 9 hours. So you factor in those hours, and that's kind of how I go off of like what I charge people. And so I think it's just really important to have these questions because if you and also do like some research beforehand and like see like what the going rate is and stuff. I think ultimately, I think Petra, you would agree that if somebody has a little lower price range or their budget, I feel like I would just work with them, like, because that is what I love to do. I love supporting moms, and I want to make it affordable and stuff. So, absolutely something that I just would do. Obviously, not get taken advantage of, but at the same time, want to support them, and I would give them some type of package. Maybe it might not be the whole thing, right? But it might be just some shorter hours or whatever.
Well, every doula is going to do it a little bit differently as well, which is why it's so important to meet a few people before you say like, yes, I want to hire you, unless you click right away, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's important to be able to talk to a few different people to get an idea and say, okay, you know, who is going to be the best fit for me? Because let's face it, like we all have different personalities. We all have different things that we want, things like as the person who's giving birth, like certain things you're looking for, as the doula, certain things that you can offer. And so finding the right person for that fit is really important. And it's not going to always be a good fit. So it's important to have these meetings to be able to talk about things and figure that out, right?
Yep. Another thing is to have a contract in place. That's really important because that covers your butt. And I had an experience where it wasn't the greatest thing ever, but it was a learning experience. I'm happy that I didn't do it because I think it would have just been not great. But yes, to have a contract that says that this is what it is and this is the cost and this is when it needs to be paid and all those things as well, because then again, you're not getting taken advantage of. And it just covers all your bases. It just does. And I think that that's really, really, really important to have. I didn't really have it with my first. And so, yeah, kind of
for both parties, right? So we know what to expect.
Yes, exactly. And, you know, that's when you can go over anything that you might like, legalities or whatever. Like, we'll
Yeah.
talk about um, all that kind of fun stuff. We won't go into all of that, but I guess
Yeah.
my next question would be, you know, we're going to ask you like how we can support you in your labor, because I feel like some people are going to be like all for like, you want the doula there like the whole time, you want us putting our hands on you, like massaging you, all these things, right? And I guess, yeah, it's just important to also like tell us like what you're expecting, how we can support you. I mean, with Petra, I was at her birth and she just did amazing on her own. But just to know that, like, and she even said, she's like, if you touch me and I don't like it, I'll tell you I don't like it.
Yeah.
And like, it's important because you don't want to overstep anything either. So kind of if you get like a feel for what they want, then it kind of just makes that go a little bit more smoother, you know? So
Yeah. Well, also
definitely.
knowing that there's different things that a birth doula can offer, right? Sometimes it is that physical support where you need the counter pressure and you need help getting
Yep.
into new positions and stuff. Other times it's just being by their side, putting a cool cloth on their head, offering them their drink,
Making a meal
reading
for
out,
the husband, or like for like
yeah,
somebody, you know, if the
yeah,
husband wants to be with the wife.
yeah, exactly. Or reading the birth affirmations that are on the wall. Or
Yeah.
maybe it's literally just supporting the husband and saying to the birth partner, saying, hey, you know, maybe you should go over and you should try doing this. Or, you know,
Yeah.
see if maybe she wants you to do that.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think
So
those
there's,
are all really important things for sure.
yeah. And then always, I think the biggest thing is all birth doulas are kind of there to be like that calming presence. Like we learn to kind of read the room and see, okay, what is it that needs to be done right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
important during this first meeting to be able to think about, you know, what do I think I'm going to need? And if it's your first birth, you might have no idea what you're going to be like, but
Yeah.
you can have an idea of what your ideal birth is.
Yeah. And then if things change, that's
Yeah.
okay too.
You go
And
with
we
the
can
flow.
change as well. We can change what we do, right? Like, it's not set in stone. It's not like this is what we're doing. It can
Yeah.
change. Because you never
Exactly.
know how you're going to feel on that day.
Yeah.
Petra, her birth last time was like so easy and everything, like in the way of like her progression and stuff. Obviously, like the contractions still really hurt, but she was able to get through it. But with this next one, you never know. She might need me to do more than I did last time. So yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It could change, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say also, this is like a really good point. Um, what are the mom's anxieties and fears around birth?
Yeah.
Because if we have an idea, then we can better support you in that. And,
Mhm.
you know, I wish I would have thought about this. Honestly, in my third birth, I thought it was just going to be easy, right? It's going to be easy. It's going to be easy
Yeah.
going. Like, I'm going to be good, right? I'm going to have a home birth. That was
Yeah.
not what happened. So, yeah, like even just thinking about, well, my fear was to go to the hospital, and that was my biggest fear. And I ended up having to transfer with the third one. So, yeah, I think it's just, especially going in, just knowing like, is there anxiety like about tearing? And then we can kind of explain to them like there is ways that we can help prevent you from tearing,
Yeah.
and things that you can do, or to prepare yourself. You're scared it's going to hurt. Well, then that might be something we say, hey, maybe you should look at hypnobirthing. That's what
Yeah.
Petra did. It really, really, really helped her to stay calm and to
We
be
did a
able to
whole
get.
episode on that as well.
Yes. So definitely go watch that. Like there's things that you can do. And I feel like if we have an idea, then we just can just better support people that way.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, going into all of my appointments, that's definitely going to be something I'm going to be like, is this
Yeah.
something, And if it's not, and you're like, oh, it's fine. Say maybe this person's like, oh, I'm just going to get an epidural and I'm not going to feel it or whatever. Because that's what my friend Sarah said. And it was not the case.
Didn't go according to plan.
It did not go according to plan. She had like relief for like 15 minutes. And then after that, it was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? And she didn't prepare herself for that at all. Like, it's a good thing it was quite fast. But yeah, I think it's just, she had no idea, She just thought I'm going in, I'm not going to feel it, just like I did the other two. So I don't know. Birth is very unpredictable. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. And, I think it's just the more you're prepared and the more ready you are and like have those questions, for your doula. I think it's really important because it will help us connect with you guys more, you and your husbands and all that kind of stuff. And we'll be able to better support you. And I think in turn you'll have a better experience.
It's true.
So,
And having fears or anxieties that are undealt with can actually affect your birth significantly, like a lot.
yeah.
So it can cause you to have worse contractions that actually are more painful than they would otherwise be.
Yeah.
It can cause you to have a very drawn out labor where it takes way longer for you to get to that point where baby's ready to come. Yeah, that's Jacqueline's putting up her hand.
That was me 3 times.
Yeah. It can cause, like, believe it or not, it can cause your cervix to actually close. So maybe it's been opening and dilating and you have this fear and it goes backwards. Yeah, it is like,
it happened to me.
It's crazy what can happen. Like,
And
it's absolutely crazy.
I thought the third baby would be so easy. And then my midwife didn't even tell me until after I had the baby. She was like, when I checked you, you were going backwards. Your cervix was closing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so
It's crazy.
there you go. It's unpredictable. You don't know.
Yeah. That's why it's so important to be prepared for birth and to know, like, you can have these things that you want for your birth. Absolutely. That is so important. Envisioning it, praying for it, whatever it is. But to also know, okay, what am I going to do if this happened? What am I going to do if that happened? Because if you can address all of these different situations, it's much easier to actually deal with it if the situation arises. Because, like you said, Jacqueline, birth is unpredictable and we never know what's going to happen.
I had no idea I was going to the hospital. I was kicking and screaming. My husband had to literally drag me. Like, I was like, no, this is not my plan. And so, honestly, I wish I would have done more, searching for, things that, maybe could have helped me cope better. But you just don't know what you don't know. And so, and I had no idea, right? So, I think just being prepared and especially just knowing, having a plan, but also knowing that it can change.
Yeah.
It can end in C-section. That's not what you want, but ultimately, as long as you and baby are okay, then you'll be okay, right? So
sometimes it is more important just to be able to get baby out safely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I remember this girl in my birthing group, my midwife group a long time ago with Ben, and she really wanted a home birth, and it was her first. And things just weren't progressing the way that she needed, and then her water broke, and then she just wasn't progressing.
Yeah.
And they ended up having to go to the hospital, and yeah, like it was sad what happened. Like the baby was okay, but it was sad because she didn't like they kept like procrastinating a C-section because I get it. I would be the same way, right? I'd be like,
Yeah.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go. But then like, you know, when the midwife is like, no, like I really feel like we need to do this. You know, you got to do it. And yeah, like the baby was born not breathing.
Mhm.
And they were able to get the baby breathing. But like, you know, sometimes things like that do happen. And I think it is important to like, you know, kind of, you know, think about it might just because you never know, right? Like I was upset about my situation, but you can't predict what's going to happen. So I think the whole lesson in all of this, the whole message is just be prepared.
Mhm.
Be prepared. And if you have any questions, you know, if you are interviewing a doula, just ask them what you like, whatever questions that you have, because we can't read your mind.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a better thing to do. And so
Yeah.
ultimately that's what we want is our clients to have the birth of their dreams, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Exactly.
think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. And that's why we want to address any fears and worries about birth, anything surrounding it, because we want the experience to be the best it can be, whether it's that ideal birth that you envisioned or whether it's,
Hmm.
you know, swerved off
Yeah,
plan slightly.
because they can
But
change.
you want to be able to look back at your birth and say, you know what, that it was good.
Yeah,
Maybe it wasn't perfect because birth is anything but perfect usually, but it was good,
hmm,
right? We
yeah,
made it through, and
yeah,
I like you want to feel prepared.
yeah,
That's the biggest thing.
absolutely. And I feel like, yeah, it'll just be a better outcome if you are prepared.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, hiring a doula is a good thing
Yeah.
because then,
And I
you know, we can help that.
yeah. And I think like different birth doulas might have different uh um what word am I looking for? I guess like rules surrounding like the timing of when they'll do stuff, but most birth doulas will say 37 weeks they'll be on call.
Yeah,
Usually that's what most are saying.
yeah,
Up to basically whenever your doctor or midwife says it's enough, usually 42 weeks. I think they give
yeah,
you 2 weeks usually after. So basically during that whole time, like we're on call. And so if labor starts or if you think maybe labor started, that means you can call us. And then if you have any other minor questions, obviously it's going to depend on the doula, but usually you can text or email and then we respond whenever we're able to. So like maybe you've been having some weird cramping, but you're not really sure if it is contractions because it's not regular. You can usually contact the birth doula about that. Maybe you lost some mucus plug and you're not sure. Does this mean labor's starting right away? Does it mean that it's going to be a ways away? Okay,
yeah,
maybe you're having some pelvic pain and you don't know if this is normal. You
yeah.
know, anything like that. We're obviously going to point you towards your healthcare provider for anything that's
First of
medical,
all, yeah,
but we can give you some ideas and tips on how to get through some of this stuff, right? Things that we do know and things that are within our scope.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, that is true.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much. I don't know. Can you think of anything else?
I guess something else that a lot of doulas will offer as well is different types of plans. So it's not like a one size fits all. This is the only price that it's going to cost.
Yeah,
So you can have like a bare minimum package. It's like, you know what, we're going to meet once before for prenatal and then I'm just going to be on call.
yeah,
But then there's also packages where maybe you have a couple times before on call for the birth and then a couple postpartum visits after.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some doulas will also offer other services like maybe placental encapsulation. Maybe they're a massage therapist. They can do massages. Maybe they're a lactation consultant. Maybe
Baby wearing.
Yeah, specialize in baby wearing. Sleep consultant. Like there's a lot of different specialties different doulas will also have on top of it as well sometimes.
Yeah.
So if there's any of those types of things that you're looking for as well, sometimes it's good to look for a doula that specializes in something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or
lots of options.
Yeah, or the other thing is if we don't specialize in it, we can help you find somebody who does.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is really important.
Yes, absolutely. It's a big deal.
Yeah. And then something else to remember is that as a doula, we're usually someone that you can call even before the midwife. So if you're still in early labor and you want that support, the midwife doesn't usually come until you're in active labor, right? Like they want you to be a little further along.
Yeah.
Most doulas will say that we'll come earlier on to be that early support for you, because you still need support even in early labor sometimes.
I did.
Yeah, a lot of people do. And so most of us are willing to do that as well. And we don't just, the baby's born and we don't just take off. Like we stay there, we help.
For 3 hours is usually what I did. Yeah.
Yeah, make sure that everything's okay, help clean up.
Make sure the baby's nursing if that's what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Make sure you're not hemorrhaging.
That you're doing okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, helping you and your partner and the healthcare provider if needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, with whatever you need. So we don't just like run off as soon as the baby's born.
Nope.
At all.
The last one I was at was 4 hours because I couldn't leave because he was so cute.
Sometimes that can happen too.
Yeah. So not a bad thing to have, but.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. And if there's any other questions that you think of, you're always welcome to ask your doula at the interview, right? At that first meeting. Bring anything up that you can think of, because it's better to ask more questions than not enough, so that you know you're prepared to make that decision.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And if you feel like you click right away and you want to hire the doula, then you can do it in that moment. And if not, you can say, you know what, we're going to take a day or two to kind of think over this, or we are meeting with somebody else. You know what, that's fine. Jacqueline got her thumbs up on the video again.
Happens a few times.
That's funny.
So random. But yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah.
If you feel like you don't want to interview anyone else, you don't have to. With my last client, they hired me right there. So yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you just click right away and you just know, yeah, this is the person I want to support me. And it's wonderful if that happens. Yeah. That's the perfect scenario for everyone, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that probably covers it. And then our next video, we'll talk about, it'll be kind of similar, but it'll be for hiring a postpartum doula and what that entails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And if you haven't yet, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, leave us a review, because it helps boost our videos so more people get to be able to watch them. And it means a lot to us. We appreciate you guys being here with us.
Yeah. We do.
Yeah.
Until next time. You might have a baby too.
We'll see.
Until next time.
What?
The
mom?